Our vision is very simple. Our vision is to grow the pie because we only want to tax prosperity, not poverty. And it is not in our interest to kill the tree that will bear the fruit.
Hello and welcome to Tax Matters. I'm Chamaka Ohaochi. Last week was an eventful one in the Nigerian taxation kingdom. It began on Monday, 16th October with the flag off of the nationwide familiarization visits of the acting executive chairman FRS to FRS formations across the country, which began at the Awolowo Road, Ikoyi, Lagos office of the service. The story of that visit we shared with you on the last episode of the program. On Wednesday, the 18th of October, the acting executive chairman's entourage moved to Lagos Mainland, and the two coordinations, Lagos Mainland West and Lagos Mainland East, jointly hosted the entourage at the Agidi-Ikeja office of the FRS. But before that afternoon visit, Dr. Zacchaeus Adedeji and the management team met with the 30 topmost corporate taxpayers in Nigeria at an event also in Lagos. These two stories will come to you in a moment. Still on activities of the acting executive chairman, on Thursday the 19th of October, the acting executive chairman FRS jetted out to Ikotepene, Akwa Ibom State, where the 10th Senate started its two-day retreat dedicated to fiscal policy and tax reforms. The retreat was organized by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies.
This retreat will focus on fiscal policy and tax reform. Is therefore a clear demonstration of the commitment of the National Assembly, not only to begin to grapple with challenges of economic downturn, but also align with fiscal and sectoral reforms, including designing an effective tax administration, which our able President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, seek to unveil as part of measure to revitalize and rejig our economy.
Diversification of revenue sources will not only boost our fiscal resilience, but also enable the government to better serve the people and address our most pressing need, especially lifting our people out of poverty.
Now, that's something very gladdening to our hearts. At the end of the two-day retreat, a communique was issued. Among other things, the Senate said it was considering the consolidation of revenue collection into a single agency through a legislative action to curb duplication, tackle corruption, and ensure seamless transactions by taxpayers. The Senate also hopes that the move would simplify the tax system, reduce duplication of efforts, and make it easier for taxpayers to comply with the law. The Senate has also committed itself to the review and reform of extant tax laws, including the Stamp Duty Act of 1939, to conform with the present way of doing business in the country. Gladdening, very gladdening. The job of the Taiwo Oyedele Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms has surely been made easier with the Senate fully on board.
It is an offense punishable by a fine of 10 million naira and or imprisonment for any agency of the federal government other than FIRS to demand for books or returns for the purposes of tax. It is also an offense to carry out the function of assessment, collection or enforcement of tax, or pay any portion of tax revenue to any person or into any account other than the relevant accounts designated by the Constitution or relevant laws of the National Assembly. It pays to pay your tax. This message is brought to you by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS.
We move on. If there is any other group that is as important to any organization as its workforce, it will be its clientele. Put simply, its customer base. And so, 2 days after the Awolowo Road, Lagos office visit, the acting executive chairman FRS met with the top 30 corporate taxpayers, those that can be described as the golden geese that lay the golden eggs, to fill their pulse, exchange ideas, and take recommendations from them for optimum performance of the service and the good of Nigeria. The acting executive chairman FRS linked the ongoing reforms at the FRS to the goal and mission of his administration and that of the federal government, while assuring that measures currently being taken are not intended to inflict more burden on taxpayers.
At the end of this meeting, I expect to receive your valuable input and feedback on how we can improve our service delivery. I must also commend your commitment to upholding high tax compliance standards and responsible corporate citizenship, which sets you apart as one of the top taxpayers in Nigeria. This aligns perfectly with our vision of making taxation the pivot of national development through voluntary compliance. We are not unmindful of challenges faced by businesses in Nigeria, with ongoing reform to improve economic performance. These are painful but necessary choices we must make as a nation to attain our full potential. We intend to engage in institutional and operational reform, leveraging on data and technology. I'm open to new ideas on collectively improving collection without increasing compliance burden on our taxpayer.
And in keeping with the purpose of the gathering, a robust interactive session ensued.
First of all, I want to commend the efforts of the FIRS in terms of making tax easy for taxpayers, in terms of communication, in terms of prompt attention to taxpayers' issues. But with respect to the comments, I would just want to say a few things in terms of the penalty and interest regime on the tax pro-max. It's a pain for most taxpayers. Then we also want to suggest that things around debt reviews, compliance monitoring, tax audits and investigations should be aligned such that there's a clear demarcation and delineation in each of these things, so that when we're doing this review, we know is to check our level of compliance, the returns we're submitting, how are they in line with the payments we're making, and then be able to get more understanding on the returns, while the compliance should be as at the time we're looking at, not a retrospective application that will cause some duplication of effort. We believe tax audit is more give assurance on the returns filed in the previous period, especially when there are years that are opened for reviews.
We would like to make an appeal for you to broaden what you are looking at beyond what is within your control, to working with the coordinating minister of the economy, to look at everything at all that could amount to taxes or levies or fees. Because for the business community, it doesn't matter the name it is called. Whether it is called tax, it's called levy, it's called charges, it's called fees, it's all going to the government. And that's how we look at it. Your predecessor, I had shared with him in my capacity then as the chairman of the finance group for the oil and gas industry, a list of 32 taxes, fees, levies that the oil and gas industry is having to deal with. 32 is a lot. I'm happy to share it with your team, but for the oil and gas industry, that 32 can be reduced to 9 or less. That would be a good starting point for us.
It takes a lot of time to get tax receipts, as well as withholding tax credits, to be mentioned here. Also, audits. Sometimes audits is seen to be like a source of obtaining revenue. We appreciate that audit is a feedback. We do not by any means arrogate to ourselves full knowledge. But when auditors come, we could review what we have done, and where we notice we've not done well, we acknowledge. But situations where auditors insist on their position, irrespective of what the taxpayer is putting forward as regards the law, with the intent of getting more revenue to the government, it doesn't go well with us. And also, we like the timeline for completion of audits to be brief. We've had situations where audits take 2 years to complete, and would like the audits to be aligned. Compliance audits, CP audits, they come at different times, and our business is not to be focused on audits. We take so much time to address those. But where the two are aligned to come at the same time, then we have more time to focus on our business. I would also appreciate the situation where the service looks into retroactive implementation of tax laws. We do not think that it's the appropriate thing to do where the tax law is being implemented retroactively. And then the issuance of guidelines. I recall that the police trust levy came up without guidelines. Meanwhile, it was to take immediate effect, and we didn't have clarity on how and when to apply it.
In response,
I will start from 80% to tax GDP, which is our target. Our belief and understanding and vision as revenue generating agency, and so for that matter, is not to increase any taxes, not to introduce any taxes. We just want to use data to improve compliance. And I just want to say, reviewing and what I have, honestly, those people in this room don't have anything to be afraid of, because it is through your great self-compliance that actually qualify you to be out of the top taxpayer that we have. Our vision is very simple. Our vision is to grow the pie, because we only want to tax prosperity, not poverty. And it is not in our interest to kill the tree that will bear the fruit. So I don't think you have anything to be afraid of. And if you look at our name, health with service, because we are here to actually render service to you. We will not collect more than what is due to us, but we don't want anybody not to pay us what is due to us. Rest assured that our 80% target is actually to follow through. And if you be listening to Mr. Taiwo, one of the mandates of Mr. President is to reduce the form of taxes to only single digits, meaning that both at state level and everywhere will not be paying more than 9 form of taxes. And even most of the AMYMAT tax, we are looking at a way, most especially when they have the same base. If you look at education tax, police tax, as long as they have the same base, let's have the consolidated rate. It will help compliance, help this desk review, help audit, help everything. So that is what we talk about when we talk about harmonization of our tax rates. And the last one is the automation that you are talking about. I know that our technical team are working seriously to make sure that the tax programs become more friendly, more interactive, and more realistic, most especially taking our law and our environment into consideration. I know they are working seriously on addressing the penalty and interest issues, and then I know hopefully before the end of next week they should be able to put it in place. And even if you want to pay 1 naira, you'll be able to pay, and then it will credit you to not pay. If you don't pay interest, you can't pay. I know they are working seriously on that. On withholding taxes, honestly, we will follow law, and that is it. So anything that is due, and this is my preaching to my colleagues since my assumption of office, taxpayers are not criminal. They are business people. So I don't want to collect more than what is due. So if you have valid claim, and that is the essence of self-compliance, most especially those that do pay whether withholding tax, which is actually prepaid tax. It's not another type of taxes. So nobody should, in court, think that we've had the revenue already. It's advanced taxes. When the consultation is done and we establish that you need refund, that's require no other approval or no other pressure. As long as we agree, the tax credit will definitely be issued.
It may interest you to note that the FRS has strong collaboration with subnationals. For example, FRS has an MOU with Lagos State Internal Revenue Service, where joint audits and other tax and other activities are jointly carried out, and all it's aimed at enhancing the collaboration. And on reduction of number of taxes, I think it's let us not end the work of the presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reform. These are all issues that are put on the table for discussion. Thank you.
I also want to talk on multiple agencies that this are from the First Bank. You see, Finance Act 2021 has solved that. It is clearly stated, but probably it has to do with the interpretations of the law. The taxpayers also have rights. You have your rights. So if anybody is coming to encroach, of course, you know very well that the business of assessment, collection, and accounting for revenues is solely with the FIRS. So if somebody is going to do that function, the first thing to do is to escalate it to the service.
You are still on to tax matters. Two words stand out in the name of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. One is the word federal, and by federal we do not mean just the federal government of Nigeria, but the entire country, because what the FRS collects in form of taxes are shared by all three tiers of government. The other word is service. The FRS is dedicated to service to Nigeria, and service to taxpayers, ensuring that even in performing that onerous civic duty, the taxpayer is able to do so with a smile. You can say that service is in the DNA of the FRS. In keeping with this national status, the FRS has offices in every nook and cranny of Nigeria, including the most recently established satellite offices. To coordinate these various offices, the service is divided into state coordinations. There are a total of 16 state coordinations across Nigeria. Lagos alone, for obvious reasons, has 3 coordinations: Lagos Island, Lagos Mainland West, and Lagos Mainland East. Later in the day of Wednesday, the 18th of October, the entourage of the acting executive chairman FRS moved to Lagos Mainland, and the 2 coordinations, Lagos Mainland West and Lagos Mainland East, jointly hosted the entourage at the Adedeji office of the FIRS. Mr. M.O. Oyebanji is the state coordinator, Lagos Mainland East.
We have 16 coordinations in Nigeria, and in terms of revenue collection and the number of offices we have, Lagos Mainland Coordination is the 2nd largest coordination in Nigeria. Lagos Mainland enjoys the rare privilege of having 2 state coordinations, Lagos Mainland East and Lagos Mainland West. This is justified by the quantum of revenue collection and the number of tax offices we have. In Lagos Mainland East Coordination, we have 15 tax offices, comprises of 10 micro and small tax offices, 1 medium tax office, 1 large tax office, 1 government business tax office, 1 tax incentive management office, and 1 stamp duty office, totaling 15 tax offices. We equally have 11 audit stroke investigation functions offices in the region. We have 5 micro and small tax audit offices. We have 2 medium tax audit offices. We have 1 large tax audit office. We have 1 tax incentive management audit office, and 1 tax investigation unit in the region. We equally have 1 debt management office, 1 special enforcement unit, a training school, and a staff clinic. On the other hand, the Lagos Mainland West, we have 10 tax offices, which comprise 10 tax offices, micro and small, 8 offices, 1 medium tax office, and 1 large tax office. Lagos Mainland West equally has 6 audit offices. That is micro and small tax audit offices, and medium tax audit office, and a large tax audit office. Lagos Mainland West 2 equally have 1 debt management office.
In his address, the acting executive chairman FRS expressed joy at meeting with the staff.
We've been in Lagos since last 3 days, just to interact and hear from you directly, you, my colleagues, that the new work they've given to me to be among you in order to deliver the federal government's vision of having revenue that can actually sustain our renewed hope and that we can use to develop our country. So my purpose of being here today is just to listen to you and to hear from you directly what other good things, like I love the word of the state coordinator, when they say we do it better, we can get better, and that is the vision. That the service is one. Someone will come, someone will go, and the only thing that we aspire for is just to improve on what we actually met or grant. So today will be just interaction, listening to you, most especially assistant director, meaning that you've been here for long. You know what has worked, what we need to improve, and what we need to improve, introduce. And this is very critical to us, because in the next few months, we will be unveiling our vision for the service in order to support Mr. President's vision of renewed hope for this country.
Following the speech of Dr. Zacchaeus Adedeji, and in keeping with the purpose of the event, the session went into an interactive mode. Mrs. Toluwalashe Apomedai is the State Coordinator, Lagos Mainland West.
You said that the essence of your visit is to familiarize yourself with us. That we have seen, you have established it. You have been able to talk to us, and we have taken it. You gave your focus as having a 80% of tax to GDP ratio. You can be rest assured that in Lagos, you will get that. You will get that, sir. This is Lagos. Center of excellence. Sir, FRS is all over the nation. But Lagos is the engine room.
We are coasting home. One of the fastest growing sectors of the Nigerian economy is the telecommunications sector, which in turn has given birth to the Fintech subsector. The taxing authorities at the national and subnational levels have taken due notice of this development and are fully conscious of the tax implications of same. In yet another of the stakeholders' engagements being undertaken by the Acting Executive Chairman FRS, a meeting was held with operators in the fintech industry on Thursday, the 19th of October 2023. The event was jointly put together by the FRS and KPMG. We will be sharing the story of that session with fintech industry players with you on the next episode of Tax Matters. But before we go, this one. The CITN is going places. On Saturday, the 28th of October 2023, the UK chapter of the CITN will be inaugurated in the City of London, joining the long list of 44 district societies spread across Nigeria. Pioneer chairman of the UK district is Chief Peter Makinde. It is on that note that we draw the curtains on today's episode of Tax Matters. Thank you for watching. Pay your taxes as and when due, and see you next week.